What started as a birthday tribute from Samantha Busch has now become one of the most heartbreaking moments NASCAR fans have seen in years. Just weeks before the racing world was rocked by the sudden death of Kyle Busch, his wife posted a message calling him the most incredible husband and father. Now those words are hitting the entire sport very differently. Because this isn't just about losing a driver. This is about NASCAR losing one of its most polarizing, talented, and emotionally connected superstars of the modern era. For over 2 decades, Kyle Busch wasn't just part of NASCAR. He was NASCAR drama, NASCAR intensity, NASCAR emotion. Whether fans loved him or hated him, they watched him every single week. And now, suddenly, that era is over. On May 21st, NASCAR confirmed Busch passed away after being hospitalized with what was described as a severe illness. The news sent shockwaves through the racing community almost instantly. Just 19 days earlier, Samantha Busch had shared a deeply personal birthday message celebrating Kyle's 41st birthday. She called him an incredible husband and father. She talked about their life together, the strength he brought to the family, the laughter, the chaos, the love. And looking back now, the emotional weight of that post feels devastating. The photos showed family moments, race celebrations, and videos of Kyle playing with his daughter. Not the aggressive driver fans saw on Sundays, but the father and husband behind the helmet. That contrast matters because Kyle Busch spent years building one of the toughest reputations in motorsports. Fans knew him as rowdy, aggressive, ruthless, a driver who would wreck your day without apologizing for it. But behind the scenes, the people closest to him always described somebody completely different. Samantha Busch had openly talked before about their struggles with infertility and how Kyle became her emotional anchor during those years. That side of Kyle rarely made headlines, but now suddenly it's the side everybody is talking about. And honestly, that tells you how massive this loss really is. From a racing perspective, this leaves a gigantic hole inside NASCAR. We're talking about a future Hall of Famer, one of the winningest drivers the sport has ever seen. A champion, an owner, a personality that carried storylines for years. Kyle Busch understood something many athletes never do. Attention matters, emotion matters, rivalries matter. He knew how to become the center of the conversation. That's why NASCAR benefited from him even when people booed him, especially when people booed him. Because every sport needs villains. Every sport needs tension. And Kyle Busch embraced that role better than almost anyone of his generation. Now, the big question becomes, what happens to NASCAR without that presence? And this is where the impact goes far beyond emotion. Richard Childress Racing now faces an unimaginable situation emotionally and competitively. Busch wasn't just another veteran driver, he was a foundational personality inside that garage. You also have the broader NASCAR ecosystem dealing with the sudden loss of one of its biggest identities. That affects fans, sponsors, TV storylines, driver rivalries, even younger racers who grew up watching him dominate. And don't overlook what this means for the Truck Series pipeline either. Busch spent years helping develop younger talent through team ownership and mentorship. His fingerprints are all over the next generation of drivers. That legacy is enormous. Now, strategically, NASCAR also enters a very delicate moment because the sport has spent years trying to balance old school personalities with a newer corporate image. Kyle Busch was one of the last drivers who still felt raw and unpredictable. He gave fans emotion that didn't feel manufactured, that's hard to replace. And whether people admitted it or not, NASCAR still relied on that edge. The emotional reaction across the fan base has been intense. Even longtime critics are now sharing memories of iconic races, interviews, and moments that defined an era. Meanwhile, others are reflecting on how much Busch evolved over time. Early in his career, many fans saw him as arrogant and combustible. Later, many started seeing him as authentic, a fierce competitor who never pretended to be somebody else. And ironically, that honesty may be why so many fans connected with him in the end. Media reaction has followed the same pattern. You're seeing analysts talk less about statistics right now and more about impact, because numbers alone can't explain what Kyle Busch meant to NASCAR culture. Drivers win races all the time. Very few become emotional centerpieces of the sport itself. Kyle Busch did. Now, looking ahead, there are really 2 possible futures for NASCAR after this. Best case scenario, the sport rallies together, honors Busch properly, and uses this moment to reconnect emotionally with fans. Younger drivers could carry forward some of that intensity and authenticity that Busch represented. In that version, his legacy strengthens the next generation, but the worst case scenario is harder to ignore. NASCAR could lose a major piece of the emotional identity that kept fans deeply invested for years. Because replacing talent is possible, replacing personality is much harder, and drivers like Kyle Busch don't come around often. That's why this story feels bigger than racing. It feels like the end of a certain NASCAR era altogether. So now the question becomes, can NASCAR truly replace what Kyle Busch brought to the sport? Or was he the last of a disappearing generation of drivers who made fans feel something every single week? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you've got a favorite Kyle Busch moment, now's the time to share it. For SPORTSWIRE USA, this is one NASCAR story nobody saw coming.